Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Workplace Relations Minister Tony Burke will do the hard sell of his IR reforms at the National Press Club later this week. He's proposing a suite of changes, including the same job, same pay laws and a crackdown on casualisation. Let's bring in Tanya Constable, Chief Executive of the Minerals Council, which is leading the push against the government reforms. Tanya Constable, thanks for your time. You've been pretty vocal about your opposition to the government's proposed IR laws. You've asked for a delay in the same job, same pay provisions. What are your concerns about what this will do to the mining industry and miners?
We're really concerned about this proposal, Andrew. It's bad and it's getting worse. What we've seen just recently with the proposal is that it's going to impact every part of the economy. It puts at risk workers and it puts at risk every business across the economy.
Well, Tony Burke, the Minister, he's said some of the things that your organisation has said in relation to this are, quote, loopy, unquote. He seems to think you're overreacting. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's not particularly constructive. When we're putting concerns forward, and don't forget, it's the whole business community across Australia united, we are showing our deep concern for what is a proposal that affects every business. It puts at risk the workers, it puts at risk the productivity of the nation, it puts at risk job creation across Australia and, importantly, investment. So that's not loopy, that is sincere and deep concern, and we're not getting any real answers about what the Minister is really trying to target here.
Can you give us a practical example about how it might affect a business? And I don't know whether you're part of the business community in these talks where you've had to sign agreements agreeing not to go into too many specifics, but can you give us some sort of an example about what it would do to a big mining company or a medium-sized mining company?
Well, we have signed non-disclosure agreements. We're certainly seeing information behind closed doors, and we want the government to go through public consultation. We need to get the proposal out there so it can be scrutinised properly by people across Australia, by business communities and by people making decisions, parliamentarians making decisions on this issue. How it affects the industry, we've got companies within our supply chains that might have 1,000 suppliers that need to take account of what a host company, a company the size of a Rio Tinto, a company the size of Newcrest, smaller critical minerals companies. Each person, each group in the supply chain needs to make sure that they understand what is required of the supplier and also the host company in making sure that they're getting industrial relations agreements right. So we're deeply concerned that things can go wrong. We know it will go wrong because we already have a complex system and we want to see more simplified industrial relations, and these proposals are anything but that.
How much of a concern is this dip in the Chinese economy we are experiencing? The Treasurer has said it's the number one economic concern. Is the honeymoon over after a brilliant few years for commodity sales in this country?
Well, we always have economic cycles that have an impact on mining. And of course, we're concerned about what is happening in China, the softening in the Chinese economy. And they've got their own issues within the economy. Over the weekend, we heard the President say that he's looking at an industrialisation and also a technology outcome for their economy. Of course, in Australia, we have sought over the last few years to diversify mining agreements, and so we've looked at other regions at a global level, making sure that we're looking at India, Indonesia, within the southeast region. All of those have become new and, of course, consistent customer markets for Australian products. But we are putting, of course, exports into China that will still occur because we have a really high quality product in our mining industry. quality products, whether it's rare earths or iron
Just
ore
briefly,
or coal.
Tanya Constable, sorry to interrupt, just briefly, because I need to ask you this before we go to break. Just briefly, in terms of the Voice campaign, the Australian newspaper had today that some Yes Volunteers materials encourage people to term mining billionaires as villains. What's your reaction to that?
Everybody needs to make their own decision on the Voice. The minerals industry supports constitutional recognition of Aboriginal people, and we're doing work on the ground. We've provided a platform within the MCA for the Yes campaign to make their case, for the No campaign to make their case, and it's up to every individual across Australia to make their own decision on this issue.
Tanya Constable from the Minerals Council, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.